Welcome in, folks. We have another Eau Claire League Fantasy Football podcast. It is week 11 in the NFL. This is our sixth podcast of the year. I'm Jack Filipiak, your host, longtime commissioner, two-time Eau Claire League Fantasy Football champion, two-time Hudson League Fantasy Football champion, joined in the studio by my assistant to the commissioner and co-host, Thomas Wilkin. Tom, how are you this Saturday morning?
Thanks. I was recently informed that I got promoted in this league, so I'm very happy about that.
Tom promoted to co-host instead of assistant. Hey for Tom. Tom, before we get into the action, last week on the podcast, we did kind of a full overview, looked at every team, where they currently sat. Last week was a big week. A lot of things changed. We'll get into that a little bit. But Tom, in your personal life, I know you and I just finished up watching the show, The Queen's Gambit. What did you think of that?
Yeah, it was very good. Not the type of show that I normally watch, but it was getting a lot of buzz on Netflix. So I checked it out and I couldn't put it down. And then you and I were both watching it basically like on the same schedule, kind of unintentionally.
Yep.
And then we watched the finale. That was fun. And then we've just been obsessed with chess ever since.
Ever since that, yeah. If you haven't watched The Queen's Gambit, give it a watch. It's a little Netflix miniseries about chess. Super fun. Really well done. And yeah, me and Tom have played. I'm 3-0 against Thomas in chess. Not to humble brag. We both have chess profiles online. Mark is smoking me right now. Tom, I have a question for you. Out of all of our friends, excluding Mark, who do you think is the best chess player?
I could see, assuming that everyone knows how to play chess.
Just who do you think would be good at chess?
I could see Jared being a really good chess player because he's so thought out and analytical.
Yeah, I could see that. If he knows how to play, I could also see Jared not knowing how to play. I think give me an Offner being good at chess. Offner seems like he could be good at chess, or he might not know how to play chess either way. Give me Offner. We're going to put that in the podcast, Offner versus Saul chess match. How fun would that be?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Tom, I also know that you recently just started watching the series Dexter. This is an old series. Most people have watched it. Where are you at right now in Dexter?
So I started earlier this week. I'm on episode 6, I think. They're really long episodes.
Really long.
Like a true hour, not this 47-minute hour with commercial crap. It is 58, 59-minute episodes. So it's slow to get through. But I'm pretty hooked pretty early on. There's 8 seasons, so I'm probably gonna be watching that for a while.
Yeah, I think most people in the league have probably seen Dexter. Tom, if any of our friends were Dexter, who would it be?
Once again, Jared.
Yeah, Jared travels light. You never know where Saul's at. Okay, guys, enough of that. Let's get into some content. We have a lot of pivotal matchups this week. The race for the playoffs grows increasingly tighter. This week, some key matchups that I wrote down, Tom, were Jack at 5-5, myself versus Chad Cobes at 6-4. Then I've got Jake Walzak 5-5 versus Mike Weiss 5-5. Mike Offner 6-4 versus Brad Udarian 5-5. I put you down there, but really only for your points. Doesn't really matter if you win. Doesn't really matter if Pierce loses. It just matters that you score some points. And then I don't think it's a marquee matchup, but Saul just needs to put the D-boys to rest here, end their 2-game hot streak. So let's take a minute. Let's jump into each one of these games. Tom, I want you to take the first one since I'm in it. Give me the analysis. Give me your pick on the Jack versus Chad game. Jack at 5-5, Chad at 6-4. Pivotal game for the playoffs. Right now, both of these teams are in the playoffs.
Yeah, so I said last week that Chad, in my opinion, had the type of team where if a couple things fell the right way, that he could have a scary team. And something's throwing me off right now because I'm seeing DeAndre Swift is projected to get 0 points, but is he hurt?
That would be news to me. We might have breaking news on the podcast. DeAndre Swift is out, and Jack makes quick moves to the waiver wire. No, I don't even know.
I clicked on his name. So
big news, Chad. I am jumping on the app right now to see who the Lions backup running backs are. Does Chad made a move yet? We might be
Yes.
breaking. Oh, okay, he made a move. Good move, Chad.
Picked
Good
up
move.
Kerryon Johnson. I'm sure the gruesome twosome is jumping for joy. The fact that they have Adrian Peterson in their lineup.
Okay, I can rest easy knowing I don't need to go make a waiver claim to block Chad. Then the move's already made.
Yeah, I mean, Chad's a little sloppy up to this point. He's got a team that's not even playing this week in the starting lineup, so we'll see what he does there. But this is news to me about DeAndre Swift because I thought this was going to be maybe that hot player that Chad needed to really get some momentum going here. I talked about Travis Fulgham being a guy I liked, and now I don't know. Maybe he's starting to scare me with Alshon coming back. I guess we'll see how he's used and if really what he's done up to this point has changed. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you. This is a big matchup. He's got probably the best defense in the league this week. So a lot of uncertainties for Chad. Your team. You have one of those teams that I said last week. I don't love it and I don't hate it. Alex Smith, I think that's a good guy to take a flyer on. He actually looked pretty good last week. I'm on the down with James Conner. He just doesn't look good to me, and the volume seems to be going down a little bit. J.D. McKissick, great rat player, a lot of catches.
Hoping for my rat of the week win with J.D. McKissick.
DJ Moore and Will Fuller. DJ Moore seems to be coming a little bit more alive. Hayden Hurst is a great tight end. Nice flex with the Bengals backfield. So I would have to give you the edge this week, but I agree that this is a very important matchup for both you and Chad. Chad wins. He probably punches his ticket with where he stands in points. You also are pretty healthy in points, but a win would help you further, further your chances of getting to the playoffs.
Yeah, I'd love to have a shot to win on record. And if I lose this week, I basically need to get in on points, then I'm in the points battle with you. And we're tight. We're neck and neck. Tom, I got a question for you on this matchup. There's a few things that stick out to me. First, the things that scare me with Chad's team are also the things that kind of give me hope. I am scared playing against guys like Robbie Anderson and Travis Fulgham because they are capable of heading just an 80-yard touchdown, which I always hate playing against guys like that. But they also could have 3 catches for 30 yards. But I want you to look at my team. Look down at my bench. I have a ton of lineup decisions I had to make. T. Higgins, he's been playing great football. How do I sneak him into the lineup? Ronald Jones just ran for 190 yards. Should I sneak him into the lineup? I have too many lineup decisions. I think I'll probably move it 5 or 6 more times. But right now, how it sits, would you make any moves?
I would. So you're right. You have a really nice bench here. For me, I would probably stay away from Ronald Jones, but I think what I would do if I were you is I would take Gio out of the flex and actually put him in for that running back 2 slot and take J.D. McKissick out, and then I'd put T. Higgins into the flex. So I would bench J.D. McKissick. This Washington backfield, they just seem to do something a little bit different every week, and I just don't really trust them a ton. I guess he does have 16 catches in the last 2 games. But for you, with his lack of rushes, you really rely on him getting probably 7, 8, 9 catches per week. So I would feel a lot more comfortable just having T. Higgins in there. Yeah,
I don't disagree. It's a tricky one. I don't know it's the Bengals, right? I don't know if they're going to have better luck stopping the pass with Joe Burrow or stopping the run. It's the Washington, Cincinnati, so McKissick out. I think T. Higgins is good. I got to look at the health. What's the health of T. Higgins right now? He was questionable early in the week with some illness. I know that's why I took him out originally.
He does have healthy status. He practiced fully Friday.
Okay. What do you think about taking T. Higgins out for DJ Moore if Bridgewater doesn't play? Is that not a move you'd make?
I guess I thought Bridgewater was playing. So, if that's the case, you never know how receivers are going to do with backup quarterbacks. I don't know. He's just such a hard guy to bench because the skill is there.
Yeah. Well, let's not dwell on the matchup, Tom. You give me the slight edge. I think I've got some roster decisions to make. Always scared of Kamara against Atlanta as well. I'll pencil him in for about 30 points there. With Taysom Hill, though, it could be a crazy game. You never, maybe Taysom Hill rats a couple touchdowns away from Kamara. We'll see what happens. Let's jump into the next matchup. I'll take this one, Tom, and I'm going to ask for your critique. We're looking at the Jake Walzak versus the Honey Weiss, Michael Weiss. Both teams 5-5. Both teams, I think, are probably out of it for points. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah,
so they got to win.
So this is a scrub matchup to me, a very important matchup because, like you said, they're not going to get in with points. Walzak's 10th in the league. Weiss is 9th in the league.
Yeah, so points probably out. And this was a crazy. They had a bunch of players played on Thursday Night Football. Wally started the Chase Edmonds, Kenyon Drake duo, and it actually worked out for him. Both of them got touchdowns. 12.9 points for Chase Edmonds, 14 points for Kenyon Drake. Walzak jumps out to a 26.9 points, but DK Metcalf saves Weiss with that. I think it was like the first drive of the Seattle game. He caught a 25-yard touchdown. It's pretty much all that he did, but that's enough. DK Metcalf gets 12.1. So let's look at the projections. Projected to be razor thin right now. Let me look at the matchups. Lamar Jackson versus Tennessee. I love him this week. Burrow at Washington. Washington has decent defense, actually. Sanders being back definitely helps. Mike Davis against Detroit. He's got Amari Cooper in the lineup right now, sitting Antonio Brown. Well, he touched the ball a bunch last week. That could be a good play. Wally is starting Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool again. Who do they draw? They draw Jacksonville. That should be a good matchup. Kyle, give me the ever so slight edge to Walzak. I think this could be a big Lamar Jackson week. Who you got here?
Yeah, I was looking at this matchup, and I also would give my bet would go towards Walzak. Yeah, this whole doubling up on the Arizona backfield, I actually don't mind it. I think when your running backs are that thin, Arizona, they're good at moving the ball and getting first downs, and they do play both of these guys quite a bit. So not a bad decision. Maybe a big question is if Ridley does play. I'm assuming he to be reception dependent. Balaj, I don't know what to expect with him at this point, week in and week out. I think if it were me, I would probably start Brown in that flex spot. But that's
Malcolm or Antonio?
Antonio.
No, just checking. Malcolm Brown had a nice week last.
I actually like this roster that Walzak has top to bottom this week.
Yeah. Walzak's got a nice team. It's pretty funny. He starts 2 running backs from the same team and 2 receivers from the same team, and I think it looks pretty good. So we both got slight edge to Walzak, which would put him at 6-5. Now, again, we said it. Walzak's got to get in by record. So if he wins, he's got to go 2-1. He's got to go 2-1, and even then he might miss. So really, to secure his ticket to the playoffs, he's got to run the table on the way out. That would get him in. He could, in theory, go 2-1 and still lose with points. So we'll see what Walzak does. Weiss in the same boat, kind of must-win games. Give me slight edge, Jake Walzak. Let's jump into the next matchup here. We've got Mike Offner at 6-4 versus Brad Udarian at 5-5. Offner's in kind of a power position in terms of the standing. He's got the win on Brad. He's also got pretty high points. If I'm not mistaken, I think he's number 2 in the league for points scored. Offner is in a good spot there. Tom, walk us through the Offner versus Brad matchup and who you got.
I'm a big fan of Offner's team. I said that on the pod last week. I just think his roster is super solid, top to bottom. But Brad also has a team right now where the things are starting to they're going to start coming together for him. I think Mostert is going to be back next week. Is what they're thinking.
Yep.
So I really I think he's so good, and if he's truly healthy, he's probably a top 10 running back rest of the season. At least that's my initial thought. Big Ben, he's tough to trust being your guy. So I think that's a little bit iffy. This whole Nyheim Hines thing, I'll get into that later. We'll see what happens there, but I think if I had to just pick a straight up winner, I like Offner. Was curious to see what Kareem Hunt's production would be with Chubb coming back, and it was pretty solid. I think they ended up running the ball about like 40 times combined across the two of them, so I'm not super worried there. Chris Carson will probably be back next week. I was actually kind of surprised he did not start Carlos Hyde.
I was going to talk about that, Tom. I was going to talk about that. I thought he should have put Carlos Hyde in the flex and moved McLaren up for Mike Williams, and then I'll put Jamal Williams in the flex, I guess. But yeah, I thought he started Hyde, especially with Carson being ruled out. What do you think? I mean, is that an oversight, or?
I think it's easy for us to sit here and the fact that the game has happened now and like he got 16, 17 points, but like
I picked up and started him in the Hudson League, so easy for us to say, but I actually executed this.
I just don't see why you would start. I would start Dobbins and Hyde and Pittman over. Well, I guess Pittman's a receiver, but I would start Dobbins and Hyde over Jamal Williams. I would, like you said, I'd move McLaren up to wide receiver 2, and then I'd plug in probably Pittman as the flex. Colts seem like they're trying to get him a lot more involved now. So I guess some questionable decisions. We'll see if it backfires on him.
Who knows? Saturday morning. Maybe he's going to make a move. Especially Aaron Jones is playing, right? I mean, I don't understand the Jamal. So. I think a move. I think Offner will make the move. I think he'll put somebody in. And so here's what I'm going to say on this matchup, Tom. I'm going to say if this roster is started as it stands, Brad gets the win. If he takes Jamal Williams out and puts in somebody on his bench, puts in J.K. Dobbins and then moves, I wouldn't start Mike Williams. He's just big play dependent. I'd put Pittman in too. I think if he makes a few moves, he wins. If he doesn't, I think he loses. But he's off to a good start. Tyler Lockett has 9 catches, 67 yards, and a touchdown, 17 points out of your receiver. You got to like that. Give me slight edge Offner if he makes a move. Edge to Brad if he doesn't. Who do you have, Tom? Say it again.
I have Offner, and I agree with what you just said. I think it's probably pretty close in my mind with how the rosters currently lie. But if Offner does make a move here and adjust the starting lineup, it's definitely my vote's going to Offner.
All right, let's move on to the next pivotal game this week. The next pivotal game, Tom, it's you. It's not even the game. It's just you. You play Josh Jacobs, Jingleheimer, Schmidt, Nick Pierce at 7-3. Nick Pierce has the best 7-3 team I think I've ever seen. Wouldn't it be funny to see him get like a 6 seed and just keep losing games? I think it'd be funny. That way, if I got a higher seed than him, I could pick to not play him, which would be nice. But Tom, you're in the points battle. You're in the points battle with me, Brad, Chad. There's a ton of people in the points battle. Right now, you're projected to get 99 points in this matchup. You started Kyler Murray, Christian Kirk on Thursday Night Football, as I think everybody would have against a juicy Seattle matchup. Kyler kind of lets you down. I mean, 20 points. Don't get me. It's not like he really lets you down, but Kyler kind of let you down in the rushing category. He didn't rush for hardly anything. What did you think of the game Thursday night?
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. Kyler is both my quarterback and my running back 1. So my quarterback showed up this week, but my running back 1 did not show up this week. So a very disappointing 20.1 points for Kyler. Kirk did basically what I just want Kirk to do: get 6-7 targets, execute them, and maybe score a touchdown here and there.
He had some big play targets too that just didn't fall his way. He was targeted deep down the field multiple times. I
was giving Pierce a hard time because I said I beat him in the quarterback battle by 0.1 points.
That's
and
true.
I think Russell took a kneel at the very end of the game. So I was giving Nick some fun with that.
Slight edge in the quarterback. It's funny in this matchup, you have 2 quarterbacks that both scored 20 fantasy points, and I consider it a disappointment for both of them, which I think is kind of crazy when you look at it that way. If I look at Tom's team, I'm not going to look at Nick's team. I think Nick probably wins this matchup, but I don't think that really matters. So let's look at Tom's team top to bottom. He's got Le'Veon Bell, Duke Johnson. He's got Christian Kirk, who already played. Then he's got Jerry Jeudy and Mike Evans in the flex. He's got Taysom Hill, which is undoubtedly going to be the rat start of the week next week. Colts against the Packers, dangerous. And Bill Lutz, New Orleans kicker. Let's look at his bench. He's got Moss and Gallman on bye. That explains his running back shortage this week. You have to sit Hunter Henry. What do you think about sitting him? I mean, obviously you're going to start Taysom Hill, but Hunter Henry's a good tight end.
Yeah, he is. I mean, there's no question here. I mean, I'm not going to put him in the flex. I'm obviously not starting him over Taysom Hill. So I would view him and Jarvis Landry kind of as like disappointing guys that I should be in starting lineups in a 14-man league, but they aren't. But real quick here, I just wanted to bring up the fact that going into this week, I did not have Duke Johnson. So I had Le'Veon Bell as my only running back
That was the big trade move.
And so I made a move with Matt. I actually looked at all the rosters. Trading for like an actual running back was going to be tough. I tried to get Damian Harris from Jared, which was going to make sense. And I tried to get Duke Johnson from Porwall, and Porwall jumped on it. So
why didn't you try and trade with me? I have Ronald Jones on my bench. I would have easily made a move. I didn't know you were looking.
Yeah, it's because I just don't really trust Ronald Jones yet. Everything.
You got Duke Johnson. Ronald Jones had 200 yards last week.
Duke Johnson literally plays 100% of the snap. So
I
view that as a better indicator for these guys where you don't really know what to expect. I just want them on the field, chip in a chair mentality.
I would have traded you Giovanni Bernard.
I don't need to give you a chance to make your roster better.
There, see, that's the real reason, Tom. I just wanted to get it out of you. I went to trade with you anyway. I don't need you to score more points. I thought I have a lot of running backs, so it made sense. But yeah, I wouldn't have done it because I can't afford you to get points. So, okay, so let's keep looking here. I'm going to keep diving in. Le'Veon Bell. You know, I looked into your guy Jarvis Landry just because I thought he's a starter too. 12.7 points is his highest points of the year. He's kind of had a bad year. I didn't realize that.
To be fair to him, the Colts, their last 2 games, they've played in like 30, 40 mile an hour winds. So the passing game just really hasn't been there. But yeah, so Jarvis really hasn't had his like true coming out party post OBJ yet, except I think that week 7 matchup. So I think looking ahead, the future is going to be better for him than what it's been up to this point. But yeah.
Okay. Here's my bold call. And this is my bold call on your team this week. I think if you didn't have Taysom Hill, I think you'd be pretty much out of the playoff contention after this week. I think Taysom Hill is going to score 15 to 20 points and save your season. I really do. I think the way I look at this, you have 27 points with 2 guys that I would have thought would have gotten you closer to 40. And then you've got 2 running backs I think you'd be lucky to get 15 to 20 points from. Judy needs to have a big play. Mike Evans against the Rams, you never know. Mike Evans is capable. I don't love your starting lineup except for Taysom Hill this week. You think you beat your projected line of 99 or miss it?
Honestly, I think I miss it. Clyde was questionable for a while, and that was getting me really excited.
Oh, that would be a big deal. I didn't know that. That would be a big deal.
No, it's going to end up being nothing. It was a non-COVID sickness, so he's fine now. Practice fully. Yeah, I mean, normally I'm excited to have Judy and Evans, but they're both playing really good corners this week. So my X factor is Taysom Hill. Yeah,
Taysom Hill. Okay, let's see what happens this week. We're gonna have a pretty clear playoff picture after this week where people stack up. The last game I wanted to look at is the last team who's really vying for contention in a matchup is Jared Saul, who's also at 5-5, and he's only about 30 points back in the playoff hunt or in the points hunt. So he's right there too. He's projected to score 113, which if he did that, he'd close the gap on you by 15 points. So he'd be really, really right there. Obviously, the ESPN projections are pretty much never right, but he plays the D boys, the Gruesome Twosome, who are on a 2-game winning streak, a hot streak from the D boys. Does Jared need to win? No. Would it really help him? Absolutely. I think he's going to smoke the D boys this week. He's got Damian Harris against Houston, which I love. He's got Clyde against the Raiders. I think the Chiefs are going to smoke the Raiders this week. Herbert against the Jets should be a smash play. I like Kelsey and Tyreek against. I think the Chiefs have a monster week. So I think this could be. like a 120-point week for Jared, and I think he could be right there with me and you in the points hunt after this. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, Jared's team's coming together. I'm going to make a bold call and say that Marquise Brown finally has this like big breakout game that we've all just been waiting for.
I like that call. I like that call.
I think it's going to happen this week. Marvin Jones is now the guy again with Holiday out. I think the Chiefs. I agree with you. I think the Chiefs are going to dominate. I think this game's going to be a little personal. The fact that they got beat kind of bad, right? I mean, it was like 10 points.
Yeah, they got handled
last time they played them. So I think they've got this one circled on the calendar. Could result in a Clyde touchdown if it's high scoring. So yeah, I like his team too to score a lot.
Well, there we go. Those are the pivotal matchups that I had this week, Tom, in terms of the playoff hunt. There's one other game I want to talk about, and it's mainly because, Tom, you brought it up to me before the podcast. I think we have an owner who's getting a little comfortable right now. He's getting a little comfortable. And I think you pointed out to me, there's cause for concern in the Matt Porwall homestead right now. Matt Porwall, he's at 6-4 now. He's dropped a couple games. His team should be coming on, and they're just not. This week, he's projected to score 97 points. He trades for Kenny Galladay, who's in his lineup, out this week. So he's got to make a move there. That should bump up his projection. But he also has Darius Slayton on bye. John Brown is on bye. Myles Gaskins on the IR. Sterling Shepard's on bye. Sammy Watkins is questionable. And he's got James White. So he's got to make a move. He's got to put a subpar player in the flex. And if he drops this week, all of a sudden he's 6-5, and his points don't support a position to make that point spot right now. Tom, should Matt Porwall be concerned?
Yes, he should definitely be concerned. That trade with me indicates that, yeah, I'm going to the playoffs. Or when I say
Yes.
I mean from Matt's perspective. So,
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, he's got Gaskins, he's got Galladay just sitting on the bench. But yeah, where he's at with points, like he probably needs. I mean, I think one more win should do it. But I mean, for being a 6-4 team right now in fifth, you're probably sitting like you think you're good, but I think Matt should be a little bit more nervous than he probably is right now.
Yeah, and as you said, Tom, he's a 7, and if he gets another win, 7 wins typically means you're in. But let's look at where Matt sits in the points, because he could be in a tie at 7-5, and if his points don't support the position, he could find himself on the outside looking in. And right now he's let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th in points. So he's in a spot where honestly he might need to win 2 games, Tom. He might need to win 2 games. He's at 1,014 points. That's 6 behind Brad. That's 16 behind you. That's 20 behind me. He might need to win 2 games. I think all of a sudden Matt might be a coin toss to make the playoffs in my mind.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And I mean, I'm looking at his team though. It's good. I mean, I think that Devontae and Michael Thomas combo will start coming alive. Gurley, every week I'm like, this is the week where he, finally gets like benched. And I still have that theory, especially if the Falcons are just like completely out of it. I think he's a 1-year signing. They're probably not going to bring him back. They might start seeing what they got in these other guys on their team to see if they're any part of their future. So I do worry about Gurley down the playoff fantasy stretch for giving Matt, whatever, this 15, 20 points that he's used to per week. Yeah. The last thing about this matchup, because this matchup does kind of matter for playoff implications when I look at it. Look at the decisions that Mano has to make at wide receiver this week. He's got Robert Woods, Jamison Crowder, and Justin Jefferson all in the lineup now, and he's benching Devontae Parker and DJ Chark. Any moves you'd make there, Tom? I mean, Shark's been he was a guy that was so high on going into the year, and he's been kind of a disappointment, even though the volume and the playing time has been there. I mean, Justin Jefferson's probably the for sure guy I would start in here. It's hard to bench Robert Woods, especially if Tampa scores a lot of points and the Rams are passing a lot to just keep it close. But yeah, I would probably put in Devontae over Jamison Crowder, although Crowder does seem to get points somehow pretty consistently. But that's where I'm sitting.
You'd start Parker over Crowder. I'm starting Chark. I'm starting Chark over Crowder. I think the Jaguars are going to get blown out. I think James Robinson's going to have a bad week. James Robinson, ironically, is in Maine's lineup. But I think James Robinson will have a bad week unless he gets involved in the passing game. And I think Chark gets another 10 to 12 targets this game, and you just got to make him work. He's if Luke Walton is the quarterback, again, that's his name, right? Luton. Oh, is that a basketball player?
Luton's a basketball player.
Jake Luton?
Yeah.
Jake Luton. Jake Luton. I was close. If Jake Luton seems to have eyes for Chark, I'd start Chark. But Maine's at 9-1. Maybe he's checked out. Who knows? So right now, Tom, I want to get a look at the playoff picture. Right now, the season ended the day before this week started. Mano gets our bye. Pierce is in the 2 seed. Offner's in the 3 seed. Chad 4. Matt 5. I'm in the 6 seed by record. And our points winner, you are in the playoffs right now as a 7 seed. What do you think is the most likely thing to change in the playoff picture right now, if anything? Or do you think this is probably what we're going to see?
No, I mean, my running back situation is just scaring me more and more. I think right now I don't see myself in the playoffs. I think Brad probably overtakes me at some point and gets that spot. I just like the direction his team is headed right now.
I don't disagree with you, but I disagree with the theory. I think Brad gets in too, but I think Brad's going to sneak in by record. I think you're going to hold the points, and I think we could see Matt Porwell fall out of contention. So give me Matt Porwell out, Brad Udarian in. Thomas maintains the points battle. Me and Brad get 5 and 6. Me, Brad, and Chad 1 seed unless he loses out and Pierce wins out.
No, I mean Pierce is cursed.
Oh yeah, Pierce might lose out. And then we all hope that Pierce picks us to play against in week 1 because he's cursed. So I think what's going to happen and what would be really, really fun is if Brad makes a playoff, Pierce gets the 2 seed, and Pierce picks Brad to play the first round of the playoffs. Pierce, you heard it here. Brad has called you out publicly on the podcast. If he makes the playoffs, you need to blast his team week 1 in the playoffs. You need to do it. You need to prove yourself. I think that'd be pretty fun. That could be the highlight of week 1 of the playoffs. But Tom, anything else about the current playoff picture now? Otherwise, we're going to move into a new segment on the podcast. Anything else for the current playoff picture? Anything?
Nope.
Okay. We're going to move into something new. We've had some highly requested content. People want to hear about the Hudson League. When I say people, I mean mainly just Dave Bauer. But Bauer, we're here to appease you, buddy. Well, I want to talk about the Hudson League versus the Eau Claire League. I have a few categories I want to bring up, Tom, and then I'm going to get you to assess them. So the categories I have that I want to rank, which league's better? Which is the better league? Is it the Eau Claire League or the Hudson League? Which league's better? Here's the categories I picked. Draft day. Who does draft day better? The rules. Whose league is set up the best way? The management, the commissioner, who runs the league? Who runs which league better? The hardware, and last, the talent in the league. So we're going to go one by one. We're going to see which league ends up stacking up better. So the first category I have is the draft. Who does draft day better, Tom? I want you to give me your opinion on this, and then I'll give you mine.
Yeah, this is an absolute no-brainer for me. Perfect their draft day. There's no drama ever. Everyone's there. I've talked about this in previous podcasts. I'm very jealous with how their draft day goes. It's their thing. Like, they make it a thing, and we tend to struggle with that a little bit. So yeah, they definitely do draft day better.
100% agree. Couldn't agree more. My notes for draft day is people show up for the Hudson League. People show up for the Hudson League. If you couple that with, they always have like their last place. Do draft day better. So the edge goes to the Hudson League. How the leagues are set up. I'll take this one, Tom, first. You can comment after. Our leagues are pretty scoring discrepancies, but they're very minute. I'm going to give the ever so slightest edge to the Eau Claire League, and here's why. The only difference in my mind in the rules is if you want a rule changed in the Eau Claire League, it's a pretty democratic process. You post what you want, we vote on it, we make the moves. The Hudson League has proven their inability to do this. They have 2 commissioners, and they try to put things to a vote, but members like Jake Walzak just kibosh things. So I think it's easier to get rules changed in our league. That could be viewed as a negative, I suppose, too, but I give the ever so slightest edge, maybe even a push in the rules category. Any thoughts on the rules?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, they're very similar leagues. One minor detail is the field goal point. They still give out 5 points for a 50-plus yard field goal. We do not. I just don't like kickers getting a lot of fantasy points. So I like the way we handle that. They are the innovators of the 7-team playoff.
Oh, that's true. I didn't think about that.
At first, when I joined that league, I thought I wasn't going to like it. Now I love it just because I think it does create a lot more active managing, trying to fight for that last spot. So I actually really do like the fact that 7 make it, and now that's something we're trying in our league. So they are the innovators of that. As you talk to kind of the smack talk and the side bets, they follow up on it. I feel like we've talked about kind of side stuff for a few years, and then it's just kind of, we get to draft day and it was like, oh yeah, what were we doing? Like, it's not organized. They keep it organized.
That's true. That's a good point.
So I'll give them the edge there.
You give them the slight edge, Tom. Before you give them the edge, because I agree, you were right on. But what about their 7th seed is record? Our 7th seed is points for. I know you love the points for. Mm-hmm. Is that enough to push you back to make this category a push? Or are you still leaning? Are you still leaning Hudson League for this one?
No, that's a good point, and I do love the fact that it goes to points because there's always that one person every year that gets kind of screwed. I mean, being good at fantasy is getting points. It shouldn't be your luck against who you play week in and week out. So yeah, I mean, the fact that we do that, I guess. Oh, this is just settings.
Just settings.
Okay, I guess I'll give us the slight edge, but it's close.
Okay, so slight edge towards Eau Claire or a push in the rules/settings category. Last one, not the last one. The next category is the management. The management. The Hudson League is a 2-commissioner league with Kurt Peterson, my brother Nick Filipiak. Nick has really taken a back seat with his stable of kids over there in Hudson and his coaching career really going on the uptick. KP, who knows what he's doing? I know what he's not doing. He's not posting any fucking content ever. And then you have in the Eau Claire League possibly the greatest commissioner and assistant to the commissioner in fantasy football history. I'm going heavy advantage to the Eau Claire League. We do podcasts. We do all kinds of fun stuff. If there's any way that we can improve, Tom kind of touched on it, it's making sure people follow through on some commitments, including myself. Hopefully the podcast holds us accountable for that. I'm going heavy advantage towards the Eau Claire League in terms of management. Tom, any thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the one thing that that really sticks out to me is the fact that we clearly voted for a super flex in the Hudson League to be effective this year. And then all of a sudden, what was it, like a month before the draft, we get a text saying no changes will be made. And it was just kind of a wild card. I was really looking forward to trying the super flex. It's something I've wanted to do for a couple of years now. And then this, you know, we implemented this like COVID rule this year, and it's been kind of wild. Some things just tend to be wishy-washy. I'll put, and things tend to be more wishy-washy in the Hudson League than they are in the Eau Claire League from like a settings and management perspective.
Yeah, they need to have just one commissioner and just be vote and just put your foot down and run the league the way you want, and get it done. But rankings, I'm still waiting. I don't even remember my team to start. Come on, post something. Thankfully, they are involved in their text thread. I'll give them that. They text back and forth. There's some banter. There's a few Snapchat threads I see too. So I know they're communicating. It's just the draft heavy advantage Hudson. The rules and settings or the hardware. The hardware, Tom. I think if there's one league, and we've talked about it over and over again, if there's one thing that our Eau Claire League is lacking, it's we've been a league for 10 years and we've never had a trophy. I consider that one of my greatest personal failures as the commissioner. We are correcting that this year as the Travis Truller, Mark Graw combo are making us a championship trophy and a toilet bowl trophy. The Hudson League has Thor's hammer. It's been resting on my mantle for 2 straight years. It's an awesome trophy. They also commemorate it with some memorable draft day things, memorable year-long things. I'm going heavy advantage to the Hudson League for a homemade Thor's hammer trophy. Pretty cool. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean that's something the Hudson League has is a trophy, and it gets passed to the winner every year at draft day, I believe.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean a trophy is just a lot more fun. It gives you something more to fight for. My high school league, we got like a Lombard. We get a nameplate for the winner with their team name and the year. So it's just kind of cool to have that history on there and then keep the trophy. So it definitely adds another angle.
Yeah. We need to have that. It's a shame that we haven't had it for so long. So heavy advantage Hudson there. I think we're both in agreement. The last category I had, Tam. The last category I had, Tom, was the fantasy football. Now there's a lot of carryover. Me, you, Brad, Walzak, Offner, my brother Nick. Which league is more talented? Names of the people that differentiate the leagues. going to do that quick?
I'm sure.
Okay. So obviously a bunch of Eau Claire League, we have Nick Pierce, Alex Main, Chad Coves, Matt Porwald, Jared differentiators. And in the Hudson League, we have the Datweiler brothers, Andy Olson, Mitch Lewis, Welsh, KP Bauer, and Kirk. So really it's those 8 against our 8 in terms of who you think is better at fantasy football. When I look at it on paper, I think, okay, Crum knows his stuff. Bauer knows his stuff. KP acts like he knows his stuff. Andy's always in the running. Tim's sneaky good at fantasy. Schmeich sucks. D-boys suck. Weiss always gets lucky. Saul doesn't know what he's doing. When I look at it on paper, I go advantage Hudson, so I had to do my homework on this, Tom. I said, okay, our settings are basically the same except for the field goal thing. So the Hudson League gets a slight advantage of scoring points, but it's very slight. So here's my research, guys. Which league scores more points? That should denote who's better. So far in the Hudson League this season, total combined points for all 14 teams is 14,471.38 points scored by the Hudson League. That's all the members. If you take that versus the Eau Claire League, you have 14,266.5 points scored in the Eau Claire League. That is nearly a 200-point advantage for the Hudson League, meaning the Hudson League just scores more points, meaning they're making better roster moves. So the Hudson League has a heavy advantage. But wait, Tom, I hope you're following this because there's more. 6 of us play in both leagues. So you have to subtract our numbers out. That means if you just look at Nick Pierce, Alex Main, Chad Copes, Matt Porwell, Jared Saul, Mike Weiss, the D-Boys, and Schmeich, those guys score 8,252 points this season versus the Datweiler brothers, Andy Olson, Mitch Lewis, Brandon Welsh, KP, Dave Bauer, Crum, score 8,090 points. You know what that means? That means the Eau Claire League is significantly better because the good players, me, you, Brad, Offner, Wally, Nick, have scored way more points in the Hudson League versus the lesser competition. So you guys will probably have to go back, rewind this segment, and listen to those numbers 4 or 5 times for it to make sense. But when your tiny brains can finally listen to it enough and comprehend it, it will make sense to you. The Eau Claire League gets the heavy advantage here in terms of talent on my side. Tom, who's your overall winner? Which league is better, Hudson or Eau Claire?
Well, you did your homework on this. I didn't. I'm just winging it. So I think with the information that you just stated, it's hard to disagree.
I like that, Tom. I'm going a slight edge to the Eau Claire League as being the overall better league. And I think we're going to widen the margin next year when we get our trophy up and running, when we get draft day traditions set a little bit more in stone. So give me a heavy advantage there in a year or two, especially if these commissioners don't figure their shit out. Okay, Tom, that's going to do it for the Hudson versus the Eau Claire League segment. I know we ought to talk about a couple things that we do traditionally on the podcast. Tom, can you give us your rats of the week last week?
Wait, last week? Oh, so the new ones.
The new rats of the week. Yeah, okay. The new rats of the week.
So yeah, this is going to be a newer segment. The way I do it each week, like I said last week, will vary depending on the storyline for that week. So this week it's actually going to be the same of what we did last week. Before I do the rats, can I do the bad beat first?
Yeah, do the bad beat first.
All right, so let me pull it up here. So last week, the inaugural bad beat went to Nick Flipiak.
Yep.
This week, the bad beat will go to Nick Flipiak.
Oh, no, back-to-back bad beats. Let's hear it.
Let's see. Am I looking at? I think I'm looking at the wrong week. Sorry.
That's all right. I'm pulling it up here too. He played keeping up with the Joneses. That's on your.
Yeah, I'll just look at your screen, I guess. Mine.
Yeah, no worries. No worries.
Weird. All right. So last week we talked about Nick's running back touches not helping him out. This week was not any better by any means. So he started 2 running backs, Leonard Fournette, Phillip Lindsay. They combined for 14 touches and a total of 4.2 fantasy points. He started Jimmy Graham and A.J. Green. They had 7 targets. They got 0 points. 2 starters in the lineup, 0 points. His kicker Bagley didn't help him out either, just 3 extra points, no actual field goal attempts. So this means that out of the 9 starting spots, he had 5 players, which is over half of his starting line combined for 7.2 points.
Yikes.
Another note I had made is Bridgewater did have 19 points, which is pretty respectable, but he left the game with about 6 or 7 minutes, I think due to like a knee or a leg injury, and he missed out on all these like ratty
Garbage time.
Yeah, garbage time. So he kind of missed it there. And kind of a fun stat too. So Nick is rostering 5 running backs right now on his team. Combined, they got 6.5 fantasy points last week. I know there were buys, there were injuries, but just kind of a fun stat there. His bench total scored 2.3 fantasy points last week. And also just kind of a random fun fact. I was like, oh, like this must have been the worst performance of the week. It wasn't. Last week we had some really bad performances. We had 5 teams that scored below 80 points last week.
Yikes.
That's a lot of teams to score below 80 points in a half-point reception league.
Yeah, I see Offner scored 61. Mr. Big Meat Eric Schmeichel scored 54. You know what happened when I scored 60 points? I got crucified in the text thread for life. You know what happens when everybody else scores 60 points? Not a fucking cricket. That's what happens. Bunch of bullshit. Look at this. Look at this shitty game. Weiss versus Gardner. Weiss versus Maine. Maine wins with 87 points. Yuck. There's about 10 rats of the week last week, in my opinion. Look at the Twosome scoring 100 points. Mr. Big Meat, fuck you, dude. Show up. You started Eckler. Mr. Big Meat, Eric Schmeichel will be removed from the league next year. I'd rather start a ghost than him, and this has been awful.
Yeah, that was pretty bad starting an inactive player, but
thankfully it was against a team that really doesn't matter. But, dude, Schmeich, you got to set your lineup. I'll make sure he sets his lineup this week because it's probably a game that matters and affects the rest of the league. Come on, buddy. Got to be better. Okay, Tom, you got your rats of the week for us?
Yep, let's go into it. So last week, the way I did this was medal style, and I think how I'm going to do this is I'm going to keep track of them, and then if you get 3rd place or bronze, you get 1 point. If you get silver, you get 2 points. If you get gold, you get 3 points. And then we'll do a point tally.
Oh, I like that. That's a cool way of doing it.
So our 3 rats last year were me in 3rd, Gruesome in 2nd, and then Weiss in 1st. The 3 rats this week are all new members. That's not by design. It's just how it happened. So Brad is going to take the bronze.
Okay,
and
let's hear it.
Brad's probably just throwing a fit right now because he won 122 to 80. But hear me out. This is why I'm giving Brad the bronze. He played Nick, your brother, who I just talked about.
Yep.
Everything went wrong. It was a pretty easy win to start. He had Nyheim Hines in a starting lineup who just randomly got 26 points out of nowhere. In my head, I was thinking like 5 to 7 is what he would probably walk away with.
Yep.
In fact, I texted Brad during the game and he said, I hope he gets me 7 points. Brad, he also started Ben Roethlisberger, who got 30 points. Now, I thought this was kind of a weird start because the weather report was showing like 30-mile-an-hour winds, and they were saying that there wasn't going to be a lot of passing or it wouldn't be a lot of deep passing. I actually don't really know how the weather played into the game, but the fact that that was just the prediction, I thought that was really risky for Brad to throw in Big Ben. But hey, it worked out. He got 30 points.
Yeah.
So Brad may have gotten about 40 points from my personal projections, 40-point bonus of Big Ben, Hines, and then Matt Prater, who got like 14 points for him. So good job there, I guess, Brad. He also avoided the scrub yards by Teddy at the end of the game. Lindsey 1 carry, Graham and Green both 0 points. I already talked about that. So I let off with just saying, this wasn't a blowout, but I do think a lot of things went right for guys that I didn't think Brad would get a lot of points from, and then the fact that he played Nick Filipiak. That's why you're getting bronze, not gold.
Yeah, I agree, Tom. Looking at Brad's lineup, I think, okay, Aaron Jones, okay, Cooper Kupp, Tyler Boyd, Dallas Goedert, those guys are involved. No, none of those guys did anything. He got all of his points from Big Ben, Nyheim Hines, and Brandon Ayuk and his kicker. I agree. Bronze rat of the week. I agree. Who else we got?
All right, so moving on to silver, we're going to give Jared. Congrats on your first medal.
Woohoo!
So Jared beat me by 0.3 points. It's going to be automatic rat consideration when you have a game that close.
And Jared needed to win this game. He needed it.
This was a must-win for Jared. So I'll just say the only reason he's not getting gold is because I did have Kyler Murray, who got me like 8 points on a Hail Mary.
Yeah. You could give yourself the fucking rat.
I considered giving myself the bronze, but the fact that I lost, I gave it to Brad. So Jared had maddening performances by just some guys. I don't want to call them scrubs, but guys that you just wouldn't expect it. Cole Beasley, Jones Jr., they got 22.4 points and then 19.6 points respectively. Oof. Those were both fantasy season highs for them. He also started the Vikings defense, who have just been trash all year. They got a season high 8 points, which was enough to seal the deal. So just kind of ratty by guys who aren't good that just happen to have good weeks. He also had Damian Harris, who had a season high in carries 22. Definitely helped Jared out. Like I said, I'm not going to get too upset the fact that he beat me just because I had my own little ratness going on this week. But just due to the number of guys on his team that had season highs, he's gonna get the silver here.
Yeah, Tom. My initial thoughts is 100% agree. Cole Beasley, 22 point. What a start by Jared starting Cole Beasley, 22 point. But the thing that sticks out to me is this game went down to Monday Night Football. Mm-hmm. He had the Vikings D, and that was the only person playing was the Vikings D. Is that right?
Yep. So
was there like a fourth quarter sack that gave him the win, or I can't remember how that game ended. Was it like the last drive? Did the Vikings get a sack as the Bears tried to come back, or I can't remember how it ended?
Yeah, I guess I don't really remember myself. I mean, there was that big Nick Foles sack. I don't know if he threw the ball though, but yeah, it could have.
Well, the Vikings D gets 9 points on Monday Night Football to get him a 0.3 point victory. Yeah, that's I like this. So I'm excited to hear the gold medal rat of the week now. Who we got?
All right, so the gold. Congratulations to Chad Cobes.
Chad Cobes.
He's got his first not only medal but gets a gold. So congrats, Chad. So to start out, he played Nick Pierce. Chad won by 2 points, 2.4 points. Played Nick Pierce, and let's just say the curse is real.
The curse is real.
So everything went wrong for Nick, even though he scored 114 points. Well, first off, before I dive into Nick, Chad had Tom Brady. Tom Brady threw a touchdown when they were up by like 16 points with like 3-4 minutes left in the game. Like, why? Teddy was out. I actually looked a little bit more into this scenario, the nerd in me. The Panthers had no timeouts left. Like, just run the ball. Like, why is Brady throwing touchdowns? So, I mean, that was enough to do it. The fact that he just got that ratty touchdown throw at the end. Chad got 87 points from 3 players on his team.
Wow.
Which were Tom Brady, Alvin Kamara, and DeAndre Swift. The other 6 players combined for 30 points.
Yeah, and if you take the defense out of that.
Yeah, so this was very lopsided for Chad. Now let's look into Nick, the guy he played, Nick Pierce. So Russ had 10 points for the first time this season. His lowest going into last week was 21 points. He got 10.
Wow.
Derrick Henry didn't play like the last half of the fourth quarter. It looked like he was dealing with a shoulder injury, or it could have just been the fact that they wanted to keep him out, the fact they were down. He's not really a passing guy. But D. Henry was off the field the whole second half of the fourth quarter. And then Dalvin Cook, who's just been dynamite, penciled in for 20 points a week at a minimum, was held to his season low of 13.2 points. So, again, the curse is real. All of that, Pierce still only loses by 2 because of Tom Brady's ratty touchdown pass. So, yeah, congrats to Chad. He walks away with the gold medal.
Way to go, Chad. Yeah, this is crazy. He also another story of a Monday Night Football victory as the Bears D gets 11 points in a loss, which is kind of crazy as well. I look at this, Tom. The only thing that sticks out to me, and this isn't even related to Rat of the Week, but I watched a lot of that Bears-Vikings game on Monday night. As a Vikings fan, this is really changing topics on you. As a Vikings fan, are you at all concerned with how often they're giving the ball to Dalvin Cook? He's gotten the ball. He's touched the ball over 30 times two of the last 3 weeks.
Yes and no. I think I just think Dalvin. I'm not even trying to be a homer. I just think he's so good, and he's such a complete all around back. He runs so smooth, and he reads the hole so well. I just don't know how you don't give it to him. This just kind of reminds me of one of those seasons that the Vikings had when AP won MVP, where it's like you just know he's getting the ball 30 times a game, and like the defenses know it, and it doesn't matter. That's what the Vikings have to do probably to win. I think a fun stat, though, with the Vikings is they lost that last play to the Seahawks on Monday Night Football a few weeks back. If they would have won that game, which they should have, the Vikings would be in the playoffs right now. They'd be the 7th seed.
That is kind of crazy. They had heartbreaker to Seattle, heartbreaker to Tennessee, both like last play. I think Tennessee ended on a game-winning field goal, right? Or was it like just an end-of-the-game field goal? But that was a close one, too.
It was end of the game. I was golfing that day, so I don't remember. And then Porwall told me what happened on the golf course when I very specifically told him I didn't want to hear any comments about the game.
Sounds about right. Tom, recap us your gold, silver, bronze rats of the week. Then we're going to move into Tommy's lock of the week. Then we'll wrap up the podcast here today. Who we got? Remind me again, the rats of the week.
All right. So do you want based off my point system?
Yeah.
All right. So Weiss and Chad are tied with 3 points, first place. And then Gruesome and Jared are tied for second with 2 points. And then me and Brad are tied for third with 1 point.
Okay, there we go. There's our rat of the week standings. Tom's going to track this for us as we go the rest of the year. I've been on Amazon looking for rat hats. I got a couple good options. There's like a cheese head one where it's just like a rat that is molded around your head. I kind of like that. I'll get the rat hat for the draft. We'll get that going. Tom, last segment. Let's hear. You have any NFL locks of the week for us gamblers?
Yeah, so I was looking at the lines last night. This one's a hard betting week, in my opinion. But I do kind of like 2 underdogs.
Okay.
And the Packers are 1 against the Colts. I'm just not sold on the Colts, and I feel like Vegas loves the Colts every week. Like they always give them pretty favorable lines. And you and Grau were telling me about how Aaron Rodgers is a dome quarterback. They're playing the Colts in Indianapolis, so I'm not really sold on the Colts offense. I think their defense can play really spotty football. So I like the fact that the Packers are an underdog. I'll take them to win more money than I'm betting.
Okay.
And then I think there was another one. God, I can't remember it though. It was another close game, I think, with a pretty good team. Oh, it was Carolina. Carolina's 2-point underdogs against Detroit at home.
I think that has a lot to do with Teddy being out, Stafford being in. I think, Tom. I don't know why else the Panthers would be dogs.
So it looks like Teddy is currently questionable. If he plays, give me the Panthers.
Yeah, I agree with that. My lock of the week this week, I'm doing a 2-team teaser, Tom. I'm doing a 2-team teaser. I'm going to tease the Chargers down to 3.5. I know. Oh my gosh, you have to tease it to 2.5. I think they absolutely shit pound the Jets. And I'm teasing the Packers up. To get, what do I get with the Packers then? Are they 2-point dogs?
Yes, you get I get they're 1.5, so you would get 7.5.
So I get 7.5, which I like that. So give me the Packers and the Chargers on a teaser. If you really want to make it a lock of the week, you could take a 7-point teaser. That takes the Chargers down to 2.5 if you want it. But I'm fine. I'm fine with the Chargers laying 3.5. That's my lock of the week. Tommy's got the Packers on the money line, win some real money. Tom, that's all I got today for the podcast. I hope you enjoyed the Hudson versus Eau Claire League comparison. Like we gave you an updated playoff picture. Next week's podcast, we should have an even clearer picture of the playoff fun. I think it's still going to be a tightly contested race. Tom, anything to add as we sign off for the day?
No, another fun one though.
All right, guys. Hey, enjoy the rest of the weekend. Please shoot me. If you listen to this, if you're one of the 5 or 6 people that listen to this, give me a text and come and be on the podcast next week. Me and Tom are happy to have people on here to interview, especially moving into the playoffs. We will still do our featured playoff podcast where we do our playoff selections. So if you're a playoff team, plan to be here for that. If you can't be here, we will remove you from the playoffs and put somebody else in. For Jack, for Tom, for the Eau Claire League, for the Hudson League, happy weekend, folks. See you later.
Oh, it worked, huh?
Yeah.